Maggie. I'm a licensed clinical psychotherapist with degrees in psychology, theology, and marriage and family therapy, a national certification in dialectical behavioral therapy, and a national certification in integrative mental health. In this video, I'm not looking to diagnose anyone. I'm only willing to offer insight into situations like these. Hi, everybody. Can philosophy and faith in God exist harmoniously, or are they just always going to be at odds? Soren Kierkegaard, say that 3 times fast, once said that faith works best in the dark. I mean, what does that tell you, right? So let's talk about humanity's oldest and most profound debates, the existence of God. But before we do that, let's say hello to some people. There's some folks in the chat. Adric Capoy is here first. He says it's on. Thank you for being here, Adric. Adrian's got to come in and kick up some dirt. Hi, Adrian. Thank you for being here. Definitely. Rocky Morcianu is here. Thank you for being here, Rocky. Keep It 100 is here. Marcus, thank you for being here. He likes the intro. Armando FBX is here. Thank you for being here, Armando. Andre 420 is here. Yes, Marcus, it is based on The Girl from Ipanema. It is, but it's different enough that I don't get a copyright. Had to work on it. But it is based on that song, for sure. Leon is here. Oh. He had to go off topic. Thanks a lot, Leon. Nick Morrison is here reminding everybody to hit the like button. I always forget to remind people to hit the like button. So help me remember. Marcus said the disclaimer should work appropriately. All right. Well, Ian Graves is here. Thank you for being here. All right. Wow. We got a full house today. But just remember, my live tribe is the best. The best. So let's have a fun time with this topic. Now, what I will tell you is, at the end of me presenting this topic and us having this conversation, there's going to be a Q&A section. Now, it's similar to an AMA, but which is an Ask Me Anything. But I'm not calling it an AMA because there's a lot I don't know. And there are certain things that I'm not going to talk about. So to prevent that, we'll call it a Q&A section. So that's going to be at the end. I only have a few pages this time, so we're not going to go forever before we get to the Q&A. And because I promised that I would remind people or point this out to people, I got the supers. So there are super chat options, super sticker options. I am just tickled about that. And I kept saying that I would do some sort of AMA once I got 700 subscribers and got some sort of monetization. So thus the Q&A at the end. So hopefully everybody sticks around for that or come back for it. Whatever you do, you are totally free. Okay, so let's talk about the existence of God. Okay, so, and for anybody new in here or anybody new in the replay gang, I make notes and I keep notes in front of me because unchecked ADHD is a bear and I will go off on a tangent, especially about things like this. So I have to keep myself on track with my notes. So if you see me looking down, it's me making sure that I'm saying things appropriately, especially quotes, or that I'm on track. So thinkers from all over the world for thousands of years, maybe even tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands, have wrestled with, is there a God? Is there a pantheon? Is there some sort of deity or something that created us or is in charge of us? All the way back to Mesopotamia and the Sumerian tablets. This is where we get the Anunnaki. This is the first time a religion is written down, and we're giving glory and honor to these creators, right? So, but it's not a relic of history really, because it is modern to it is relevant to our modern times, especially, here in the United States and in the West. There seems to be this sort of push towards Abrahamic religions. In the United States, there's a push, always has been really, a push towards Christianity and this kind of divide. And you will hear people say, oh, there's a war against Christianity. There's a war against Christmas. There's a war against white men. There's a war. It's not happening. Anyway, Christianity, much like white supremacy, is baked into the sauce, right? It's part and parcel. They are not distinguishable from one another. Okay? Think about, in the United States, depictions of God. What does that deity look like? An old white man, right? So, Christianity has been used in the system forever. So when we look at societal structures as well, we have to keep that in mind, that capitalism, colonization, and Christianity, the three C's, are all the control tactics of the government. Okay, so let's step back in time a little bit to talk about the historical roots of the debate, right? Faith has been, since it was first written down, faith has been part of our human existence, part of our way to answer questions we have about, why am I here? What is the universe? Where am I at? What's the point, right? Adrian says Jesus looks like Kenny Loggins. Yeah, we've said that many times, right? These depictions of Jesus, they're not biblically accurate, right? Because in the Bible, it says something about woolly hair, which would be puffy, curly, woolly is soft and fluffy and curly, and, and that he was the color of bronze. So look at a penny. Not Kenny Loggins. But anyway, so religion provided not just this sense of purpose, but like a moral framework. So there could be rules, right? Ways to govern yourself and to govern other people, to sort of know how to behave and what things are not okay, right? And then we use it to explain the mysteries of existence of all things of all times. Okay. So at the same time, the doctrine or the dogma of religion came with an authority figure, right? There had to be a priest. There had, the high priest. There had to be a shaman. There had to be a chief, a leader. There had to be something. I'm just saying this is how they thought. I don't think there has to be, but there had to be like an authority figure, and who created these external mandates, right? Dogma. This is the rules of this religion, right? So we go from the Sumerian, religion of the Anunnaki to Zoroastrianism, which is an amazing religion. If you are interested in this kind of thing, you should look into it, right? And later we get Christianity. Well, we get the Israelites, we get the Hebrews, right? And at some point, if somebody wants me to talk about it during the Q&A, ask me about Moses and God, and we can get deep into it. I can tell you exactly who God is, the Hebrew God. Anyway, um, what would happen with these external rules is we would be indoctrinated. Humans would be indoctrinated with the belief system of this religion, right? And anything personal is taken out of it, right? Like you don't get credit for anything. If we, if we shoot way into the future and talk about, Christianity, anything good that happens is God, and anything bad that happens is you, right? So you don't get any credit for anything you ever do, right? All glory and honor to God, right? Like that's how we say it, right? And then if we don't, if things are that bad are happening, well, it's not God. It's either you or it's the guy with the horns, right? It's Baal, who they call Satan, or maybe his name was Lucifer. Why did they decide this is interchangeable? I can get into who Satan is actually and who Lucifer is as well at some point if we need to do that. Looking there. Isn't it exciting? Look. All right, Leon says theories and philosophy will always have some form of it. When things break down, they hope, pray, have faith. When all else fails, they pray to Sky Daddy. Yeah, I actually, in my notes, refer to him as Sky Daddy. Ian says Christianity is responsible for a sense of autonomy and freedom from tribal traditions that did not allow for individual thought in many cases. No guarantee we would have turned out better without it. Well, I mean, I would push back a little bit and say that Christianity offers no autonomy and freedom. You belong to God, the Sky Daddy, right? You belong to God. God knew you before you came. What are the tenets? So God knew you before you came. God breathed life into you. You are born a sinner, will live a sinner, die a sinner. Salvation only comes through him. There's no such thing as self-liberation. Anything positive in your life is because of him, and anything negative is because of you or the villain of the story. And so to me, and to be a good that is very performative. To be a good Christian is to be very performative. You have to show other people that you are a very good Christian, right? Now, are there lots of really good Christians? Yes, absolutely. I'm talking systemically, okay? Systemically. All right. Keep It 100 says we are either the cause or a victim of anything negative. Right. Nothing is you. Okay. Leon says Sky Daddy looks down at us and says, don't forget about thanking your mama. But he's mom, right? We have the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. There is no mother, right? Even though Ashra was renamed as the Holy Spirit because she was the ether and the ethos. She was the mother. She was the great mother, the archetypal mother, right? But again, it's all part and parcel. We got to take mom out of it and turn Mary Magdalene into a prostitute in the 1300s. Leon says, and when things go left, the devil says, don't blame your mom, and that was on you. Exactly. Okay, so we have the authority, the external mandates, the suppression of personal credit, loving yourself. Who are you supposed to love more, God or yourself? Who are you supposed to love more, your wife or God, your husband or God, your children or God? This is really starting to sound like a narcissistic relationship. Why are you hitting yourself? Anything that goes wrong must be you. That's gaslighting. Oh my gosh. All right. So philosophy, on the other hand, is kind of the opposite because it asks us to question everything, right? You're not allowed, when you are Abrahamic religion, okay, you are not allowed to question God. You don't question God, whether God is God or Allah or Adonai, right? This is some Christians Some Jewish people think this is the same God. Um, I mean, in a way, I do too, but I believe in the fractalization theory. Um, so when philosophy says question everything, right? Like ask the question and then play it all the way out from the most ridiculous question, right? This is why debates were so and discourse was so amazing during that time. The one thing that was really good about it was that somebody could propose a topic to these thinkers and it could be the most ridiculous thing, the silliest thing, and they would play it all the way out. They would try to prove it from multiple perspectives. They would try to disprove it from multiple perspectives. They would debate the topic back and forth, because the whole point was to get to the greater truth, right? Now, in Christianity, you have in the Bible that says Jesus is the truth, right? And so you don't have to question anything. Jesus is the truth. Remember, I am the way, the truth, and the light. Remember? And then somehow Jesus and Lucifer are both called the morning star. Who knows? All right. So philosophers wanted to reconcile the external belief systems with our internal systems, like what was going on inside. The first psychologists, sociologists, physicians, all of that came from great philosophers, right? So God moved from this like studying of religious texts to make sure that you're following all the right rules to focusing on things like metaphysics, ethics, and epistemology. Okay, so now religion kind of went, uh-oh, all these philosophers, all this science, they're questioning everything, and it's not looking good for us, right? Ian says, with a full development of individual mental consciousness in a lot of ways, the former religious traditions were not equipped to map out the new changing cultural trajectory that came as a result. Don't disagree with that. Marcus says, don't be blaspheming. I do it all the time. And you know what? Jesus can pull up. I tell God all the time, you're all powerful Oz, right? So pull up. And it doesn't happen. So, not to say that those deities don't exist, but obviously I'm allowed to talk about it. Okay. So when religion was like, uh-oh, we're losing people to scientific inquiry, right? The Romans came back, the Catholic Church, created a movement called scholasticism. Now, this was led by Thomas Aquinas. You guys may have heard of Thomas Aquinas. Okay. So Thomas Aquinas wanted to reconcile faith and reasoning. Whew. See, this is why we call religion faith-based, because it's not reality-based, okay? It's based in faith, not based in reality. But Thomas Aquinas said, we've got to have a way to put faith and reason together. So that's what he tried to do, okay? But as time went on, there was a lot of problems, as you could well imagine, with this synthesis. So the first one was the over-reliance on authority. That's what organized religion always has, is there has to be an authority that's the final word. It's kind of like, is it a Tao? Is it Buddha? Zen? I don't remember who said that. But they said when you're seeking God, it's like looking at somebody pointing at the moon. And what they were talking about was like you could have a guru or a teacher or a pastor or a parent, somebody who could say, that's God. And they're pointing at the moon, right? And we become so focused on the finger pointing at the moon that we don't see the moon. So it's okay to have teachers and people who give you information or guidance or things like that. But if you become so focused on the dogma, you're never going to find the moon because you're focusing on the finger pointing at the moon. Okay. Rocky says, I know, right? I sin and stuff all the time. Hell, I just had a ham sandwich. And he was a Muslim since childhood. Yeah. Yeah. Rocky said Bruce Lee said that in Enter the Dragon. Yeah, I think it's a Zen principle. Yeah, I think it's Zen. I think, but it could be Taoist, could be Wu Wei. I don't remember. It's Eastern. That much I remember. It's Eastern. So the problems with scholasticism was the over reliance on authority, right? Like you are not allowed to have original thoughts. There has to be an authority figure, right? Scientific inquiry never went away, and that's always going to challenge that, because there's like a rapid advancement of science always happening, you know. We're always going to have a conflict between faith and reason, you know. Um, Nominalism. Okay, so William Ockham talked about that using words like goodness and holy are just words without inherent meaning. What he meant is that you have to go into a faith-based way of viewing God already agreeing to the inherent meaning of words, right? Now, in Eastern traditions, we'll use Hinduism as an example. In Eastern tradition, there are just as important gods who tear stuff up, right? So the Trinity, where we get the idea of the Trinity, by the way, in Hinduism is Brahma. He's the top. He's the creator god. So he's the pinnacle of the triangle. And then we have Vishnu and Shiva. And Vishnu is the maintainer, the great maintainer. So we have the creator, the maintainer. So Brahma creates, right? Makes some stuff. It's Vishnu's job to maintain that stuff, keep things going, keep the goodness going, keep the train going, keep things sustained, So every time you find food, you would think Vishnu. And then we have Shiva. And it was Shiva's job to tear stuff down, like decompose some things, knock some stuff over, send things back to the earth. It's not a bad thing. It's not in a negative way because the cycle has to continue. Brahma cannot create unless Shiva tears it up. And so words like good and, not destructive, you know what I mean? Like being taught not to be destructive is just words. They're just words. So unless you can say that they are tied to some greater truth, that just goes into nominalism. Okay. The Avignon papacy, right? Which is like all the scandals of the Catholic Church. We'll just say all of the scandals was sort of like, how can you be a moral authority when this is what's going on? How at all, right? Then we have Renaissance humanism, called it pedantic, meaning it's focused on dogma, right? And then the Protestant Reformation. So all of those things messed up scholasticism terribly, terribly. So let's talk about how some philosophers handled this. So the first one of my favorites, René Descartes, who said cogito ergo sum, which I use a lot, which means I think, therefore I am. So the basest, most proven tactic of knowing that you exist is that you can think inside your head. I don't know if you exist. I know I exist because I think inside my head. And that's all I can know. So he was one of the fathers of modern philosophy. So he wanted to prove God's existence through reason. Okay, so he came at it from there's a statement, God exists. And then As a philosopher, he tries to prove that God exists. And what he said was that the idea of a perfect being can only come from a perfect source. Now, the problem with that is that everybody's idea of a perfect being is different. And if it was like the base model, the perfect being, then we could all agree on what that is. So in comes Immanuel Kant. And Immanuel Kant said, reason can guide your understanding of the physical plane, the physical world around you, right? That's what we use reason for. Our emotions and our sensory information gives us everything we need, and then we use reason to interact with the natural world, right? And so what Kant said was that the existence of God is in a different realm. So a different plane of existence, right? He's multidimensional, apparently. So, but what Kant said was morality, using your own internal compass gets each of us individually towards the divine. So this is what I like about Kant, is that your relationship with the divine or with God or with deities or creation and your belief system has to be personal. This is only for you to figure out. Okay. So that is in contrast to Nietzsche. All right. So Friedrich Nietzsche, right? He said, God is dead. Right. So he saw the decline of traditional faith as liberating, but also dangerous, right? Because without God, each of us has to create our own value system, right? Um, and the more into the age of secularism that we get, each person is finding their own value system, and we're really having to question, we're kind of coming full circle that we've now become philosophers questioning what we always knew to be true. Like one of my favorite questions is, who told you that? When people come at me, this is the right way, or this is how it has to be. Well, who told you that? And then what do they benefit from you believing that, right? My biggest example is you have to forgive people. No, you don't have to do any of that. It only benefits them. Okay. But those thinkers laid the groundwork, right, for contemporary debates around faith, morality, our existence, the existence of God, our understanding the world, and all the choices that we make, right? So philosophers have always struggled to kind of reconcile faith and reason together, right? They were always trying to prove the existence of God through reason, but it wasn't really working. So now enter traditional theism. Okay. Traditional theism, these Abrahamic religions, right, are inflexible, dogmatic, and instead of trying to reconcile the things together, they then start talking about how scientific inquiry and science and technology are evil. They're from the devil, right? Why did I just think of Waterboy? It's from the devil. So, isn't that how she said it? Foosball? Anyway, so do you see why I have notes? Or else I just go off the rails. Sorry. Now in politics and academia, the God debate, the religion debate always has to be brought into it. It's like, and we're only going to debate the Abrahamic religions, right? And now for some reason, Judaism and Christianity are like, for Christians, they're the same. For Jews, they are absolutely not the same. because you are Goya, right? Which is a lesser human. Um, so it's trickled in everywhere. Now, the the Nation of Islam, Muslims, they're not really causing a stir. In some other places in the world, they are. In the West, they're not putting a dog in that fight, so that's interesting, right? But it's sort of like the Christians with the Jews against everybody else, right? But we're supposed to have this separation of church and state, right? But we don't. This is why I say it's baked into the sauce. Christianity as a tactic of control is baked into the system. It's part of the system, the three C's, right? Colonialism, capitalism, and Christianity. Those are the methods of control. That is the white supremacist patriarchal society in which we live. Okay. So we get all these heated debates, right? We just went through a presidential debate and there was a lot, and why religion is brought into it, I have no idea. But my bigger question is, why should an individual, some other person's personal belief system govern my behavior? I don't believe in Kenny Loggins' white supremacist Jesus. I don't. Right? And I don't believe in hell. So now you're going to make it a law that I have to do the things in which you say because of your personal belief system, right? And we continuously get this clash over and over and over between scientific inquiry and religious dogma until you talk about quantum physics. And then somehow everything is possible because quantum physics just says, everything could be happening. Yeah, Leon says monotheism will never agree. True. True. And it's all the same. I mean, historically, it is all the same God, whether it's like in actuality, the existence of a God and it's the same God, I don't know. But dogmatically, it all comes from the same God. Okay. So we keep trying to bridge the gap, right? Alvin Plantinga, argued that faith and reason are not only compatible, but mutually enriching. Okay. Karen Armstrong emphasizes the importance of internal spirituality over external dogma. And that's kind of where we have gotten to, that each spiritual journey is very individualized. And if you require rules and laws outside of yourself to govern your behavior, then that's kind of scary, because if nobody's looking or you're not going to get caught, you're going to do all manner of ick because you don't have this internal moral compass that guides your behavior. It's all performative, right? So I think at the heart of it for me is about authenticity. I say this all the time, being authentically you, having your own spiritual journey and your own relationship with whatever you believe in. Question all the dogma, use your own internal accountability, right? Instead of relying all on the external doctrines and things like that, right? We want our own internal moral compass. What do you think is right? Just right, not situationally right, but right. That's the only way we can really reconcile our reason and our beliefs, is that we reconcile them internally, right? I think that the answer to reconciling it is part of our journey here. It's part of the tension and the things we have to figure out. These are things that we, as teenagers, young teenagers, we sort of lie awake at night and think, why am I here? What does this all mean, right? So we have to continuously question those assumptions, right? So whether you find meaning in faith or reason or science or whatever it is, these are all perfectly fine and all individualized. And I want you all to have as much freedom as possible to discover whatever it is that you want to discover, right? Okay, so we're going to move into the bonus Q&A section and see if you guys have any questions. I'm a little nervous, so be nice. And if there's no questions, that just means we're done early, like done less than an hour. And anybody on the replay gang, you can put questions in the comments. I'll do my best to get to it. So while we're doing that, though, just in case anybody has questions, I want to talk about upcoming shows. So Wednesday is going to be, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? So that's coming up Wednesday. I think that's an important show for people. And then the first few shows in December, I've already got them posted up just because I'm excited. Okay. So the first one that following Sunday is going to be acceptance is complicated. And, it sounds like a simple concept, and it's really not. And we all, as human beings, require it. As much as we try to tell ourselves, I don't need to be accepted and I don't care what it's part of human nature. We all seek acceptance. So it's complicated. So we're going to do that Sunday. The following Wednesday is Quantum Physics Proves Karma is Real. That one is going to be exciting. I'm excited about that one. And then that following Sunday is going to be about how the great sex that you're having is because you're poor. So we're going to talk about how Maslow's plays into energy meridians, plays into ascension, plays into all the way into tantric sex. So hopefully you guys can be excited about that one. I'm excited to talk about it. Oh, okay. Here's a question. Okay, so Leon says, so who was the small hat God? Okay. So Moses was a priest in Egyptian during the height of Egyptian times. Okay. So was this during Ramses? No, Akhenaten. Tut. So this was during the time of the Tuts. Okay. So Moses was a priest. He was a priest of Ra, Temple Ra. Okay. And during that time, so Tut Senior, Akhenaten, right? He comes in and he's like, I don't like Ra. I like Aton. Aton? I think it's Aton. I like Aton. And so everything had to become Aton. Now, Ra was the sun, okay? The S-U-N, the sun. And so everybody worshipped the sun as the personification of Ra, the physical manifestation of Ra. And so when Akhenaten said, I don't like Ra, I like Aton, a lot of the priests were like, what does that mean? So Aton became the first monotheism. So before that, there was a pantheon, right? And Aton looked like the sun, but with a whole bunch of hands coming out of it that would give you blessings. But if you didn't do what Aton wanted you to do, he would smack you with one of those hands. So he's either going to give you a present or he's going to hit you. So, and that Pharaoh could be the only priest of Aton, right? So Pharaoh changed it, right? Then after he died and Tut came in, Tutankhamun, he changed it back to Ra. He was like, that was dumb, and changed everything back. But in the meantime, Moses left Egypt because he was like, that doesn't sound right. but also Ra, I get the point of that Ra wasn't quite right either. So along the way, Moses started having followers talking about this monotheistic religion that he was thinking of. Then he goes up on a mountain. Nobody's up there to witness it. He comes back and he's like, hey guys, here's the rules. And that's where the worship of Adonai started, right? Was through Moses, who was a priest of Ra. Oh, Ramses. Thank you. I'm pretty sure the Tuts had something to, or the Commons had something to do with it. The Akhenaten and Tutankhamun, they had something to do with it. I don't remember all the details, but other than Moses was a priest of Ra, and he decided to go start his own monotheistic religion, went up on a mountain, came down, told everybody these are the rules, and that's where it started. They started the worship of Adonai, who has qualities of Ra, qualities of Aten, and then some other qualities that are mixed in. Then the Torah was written based upon the Sumerian tablets and some Egyptian culture. So that's who Adonai is. He's a variation of Ra, just like pretty much all Egyptian gods have some relationship to Ra because he's the head god, right? He's the Zeus of the Egyptian pantheon. Armando says you said you don't believe in hell. Is there some punishment for some of the evil stuff people do? P.S. I was raised Catholic. I believe in God, but no affiliations. Okay, so we live our punishment. So where my personal belief is a kind of a fractalization. That's what I talked about, right? That when God as energy, all the energy that ever was, right, is in a ball. This is how I conceptualize. And it somehow becomes sentient. And so it's looking around going, what am I doing here? What is this? And then it's like, oh, but I'm thinking things. So I must exist. So it says, I am. Now, in the vastness of all that ever was and all the energy that ever was created, this big ball of quarks, okay? It can't, there's no mirrors, right? There's nobody else to ask. Like, what do I look like? What am I like? What's my personality? What do you think of me? And so the way for God to experience itself is to use energy and put itself in little small pieces of things that it can animate so that it can experience itself. And in that way, just like we have shadows, right? We have our shadow side, we have things that we are capable of, that God, in being the sum totality of all energy that ever was created, is both good and evil, is yin and yang, is the sunny side of the mountain and the shadow side of the mountain. And so God experiences itself by seeing how capable it is of doing amazing goodness and amazing evil. And sometimes it only needs to experience the world for 5 seconds after it was born. And sometimes it needs to experience that it's a cricket, and sometimes it needs to experience that it's a Tibetan monk and or the cashier at the HEB, or So I think we are sentient in that we are a piece of God. This is why when you look in somebody's eyes and you can see their soul, or you can experience their soul, and it's the same. It's the same. Now, I'm not talking about NPCs, but that's why I say, like, we experience heaven and hell here. This is heaven and hell. and it's all what you make of it. That's just what I think. Leon says, "The same mountain he saw Jesus at the same time, but not at the same time." Yeah, because Jesus was his bro. Trust me. These are the rules. Trust me. Ian says, "Are people a little naive about the assumption there's a guarantee of our species survival, where Christianity may have played an important role in the strengthening of the human psyche despite its drawbacks?" Mm. Well, I mean, my thing is I have an assumption of our species survival, and I will tell you why. So, archaeologists and historians now will talk about how we are in cycles of, is what is it, 11,600 something years, 11,000 something years, which also aligns to astrological eons. I think that's what they're called. Archons, eons. Um, and what happens during these cycles when we switch from one cycle to another, the poles shift in the earth. And so we will have the great flood, we will have meteors fall from the sky, we will have plagues of insects, we will, we'll have all these things that really, or the sun gets super duper close to the earth and scorches, there's some scorched earth stuff going on. That happens during this flux period. The last one that we went through was called the Younger Dryas. So if you want to look it up, look up the Younger Dryas, and humanity shouldn't make it through that. But every time it does. And in every place in the world, there's always these stories about these 11,000 year cycles, but archaeologists are finding proof now of these 11,000 year cycles. And so I have kind of an assumption of that our species will continue on regardless of dogma or religion. So hopefully that answered your question. Christianity is a form of keeping humans continuously resilient. Maybe. I mean, yeah, I mean, an indoctrination that tells you can't commit suicide or you burn in hell forever. You don't really have an out. You have to be performative, and that your entire worth is based on what other people think of you. Yeah, I guess you always got to keep it moving. You got to keep going. There's no giving up, right? Or give it to God. Okay, well, I appreciate you guys being here. Leon, I especially appreciate you for the super that I gotta show it one more time. Look how pretty it is. I appreciate it so much. I appreciate everybody being in here. I appreciate the live tribe and the replay gang. I will be back on Wednesday. What did I say I was talking about again? Oh, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Those are two different things. So I hope everybody enjoys the rest of your Sunday. Oh, wait. Leon caught me just in time. Last questions. Have you watched Raised by Wolves? I'm not great with titles, but it doesn't sound super familiar. But for some reason, I'm thinking of this documentary I watched where they talked about different, it was behavioral health. And there were children. There was a child that was abandoned at a very young age in a building. And this is actually a documentary. This happened. And I believe it was in Russia somewhere. And, wolves ended up taking over the building and whatnot, and kept this kid alive. But then when people found her, she would run on all fours, not on her knees, on her hands and her feet. She would bark, she would howl. She was feral. And so the whole show was about people who were feral. So I don't know if that's what you were talking about. But if so, it's a great documentary. Oh, okay. He says, watch it and you'll understand. The next thing on my playlist, I'm going to go back and rewatch Noah. I'm going to watch it with some different eyes, some fresh eyes. I think it'll be fun. But all right. If I don't see you guys this Wednesday, I will see you next Sunday. I hope everybody has a great rest of your day. And I didn't shout out Adric earlier for saying, let's hear it for the dancing Maggies, but I'm going to give him credit for it's time for the pup cameo. Please like the video if you haven't already. It really helps the algorithm to know what kind of things you like. Share where you think it's appropriate, especially to someone who you think needs to hear it. And don't forget to check out some of the wilder Pivot Point Wednesday shows. And last, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, especially if you want to break down complex concepts that make the esoteric not so teric, helping you on your journey to become your most authentic self. By subscribing, you'll join a community that thrives on curiosity and growth, and you'll never miss out on insights and some wild discussions. Let's uncover the universe together.